Hello, welcome back. During the war, even major decisions were seldom taken by Stalin alone. Usually such decisions were taken at meetings with his closest associates. Of course, his word was still decisive. These meetings had no formal status within Soviet institutional power structure. They were later on arranged in the name of a recognized Soviet body, for example, the Politburo or a Council of People's Commissars. But the truth was that Stalin simply could not cope with everything that required his urgent attention. So some decisions had to be taken without his involvement. The war had to be a collective effort. And so it was. But as the war was drawing to an end, Stalin started reminding his circle who the master was. When the old guard, both in the United States and Britain, was gone, foreign journalists started to speculate about power succession in Russia. This increased Stalin's suspicions about the ambitions of his associates. And of course, those closest to him, those who worked with him throughout the war, Molotov, Beria, and Mikoyan, first of all, were the most vulnerable. Marshal Zhukov, who was at that time Deputy Commissar of Defense and was popular and influential both in the army and among the general populace, was also in danger. In September 1944, Stalin removed Mikoyan as head of the procurement commissariat after addressing down on trumped-up charges. Molotov, who was the closest ally of Stalin, was particularly vulnerable. In September 1945, Molotov made minor procedural concessions to Western allies. Stalin severely reprimanded him. Molotov made an unforgivable mistake. He withdrew the concessions, but he disclosed that this was done on Stalin's instructions. Stalin was not at all amused. He did not like his associates to look milder than he was. In December, a harsher blow came when Molotov eased some restrictions on foreign journalists. Stalin did not even speak to Molotov about it. He sent a telegram to Malenkov, Beria, and Mikoyan, accusing Molotov of trying to change the course of Soviet politics and to gain popularity within certain foreign circles. This was a very severe accusation. Stalin added that he could not even consider Molotov as his first deputy anymore. In January 1946, Beria resigned as chief of the NKVD, no doubt on Stalin's orders. He retained control over the national security matters as deputy prime minister responsible for state security. But at that point, the NKVD was divided into two separate ministries, and heads of both these ministries were not Beria's friends. Stalin encouraged both of them to replace Beria's men in these ministries with their own people. Soon, Beria could keep the grip only on foreign intelligence, but he remained head of the all-important Soviet nuclear bomb project. In 1944, Stalin appointed Nikolai Bulganin as his own deputy at the Defense Commissariat. Thus, Bulganin became Zhukov's boss. It was a snub to Zhukov, because Bulganin was a man without much military expertise and no achievements in this field. Look at this picture. You can see that Zhukov is the main person here. Bulganin is to the left of him, and then Sokolovsky. It is quite obvious that the commander here is Zhukov and nobody else. Soon Stalin publicly accused Zhukov of exceeding his authority in a totally insignificant minor matter. In 1946, Stalin ordered the arrest of several generals, all of whom were close to Zhukov. He had a case opened against Zhukov himself, but Zhukov was too popular and his name was too closely associated with Stalin's war victories. So he was publicly humiliated, disgraced and demoted, but his life was spared. In late 1945, Stalin started to reorganize his inner circle. Malenkov lost his position as secretary of the Central Committee, and new people were appointed, Andrei Zhdanov and Nikolai Voznesensky. They were brought in and they became members of Stalin's closest circle. Zhdanov replaced Malenkov as secretary of the Central Committee. This was, in fact, the end of the wartime collective leadership. The country returned to the pre-war form of government. That means Stalin's unlimited dictatorship. With it, Stalin's old methods of governance were back